Those of you who are visiting in the church or are new here, I've been taking a series of sermons through the book of Revelation. This is about number 12. I've got 2 more to go, so I'm trying to hurry through now. Chapter 12 of Revelation. One of the things I've been saying about Revelation is that many of you were brought up to believe that the book of Revelation is basically talking from chapter 4 onwards about the last 7 years of history. I've taken another view of the book of Revelation, and I believe that the book of Revelation is a book that was written way back in AD 90, so it was very applicable for the church back there and not just for the last 7 years of history. And it's also got, the book of Revelation has a whole lot of visions, a whole lot of pictures, and they're not necessarily just talking about the future. Some of them are talking about the past, some of them are talking about the present, and some of them are talking about the future. And as we read chapter 12 here, I want you to kind of get a glimpse here into chapter 12, that chapter 12 is actually not talking about the future. It's giving us a picture of why we have persecution and conflict and we're at war. And it gives us a whole lot of symbolism here in chapter 12. And later I'll just briefly run through and point out the symbolism of chapter 12. And I was actually thinking of this between the 2 sermons, that chapter 12 actually is like an introduction to why the events happen in chapter 13. When we look at the 2 beasts and persecution there. So, chapter 12. A great and wondrous sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his heads. His tail swept 1/3 of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that he might devour her child the moment it was born. Very dramatic stuff, this, drama. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the desert to a place prepared for her by God where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. And then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accused them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down, or has gone down to you. He is filled with fury, because he knows his time is short." And then up to verse 17. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obey God's commands and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads with 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head was a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his authority and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seems to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast. People worshipped the dragon because he'd given authority to the beast, and they also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can make war against him?" And then I want to jump to verse 11. Then I saw another beast, second one, coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. He exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf, and he made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of all people. Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. He was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let those who have insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is humanity's number. The number is 666. Well, let's have a look at this. I want to first of all start off by just basically running through chapter 12 and looking at the symbolism in chapter 12. Now, chapter 12, I think, has actually got some of the clearest symbolism in the book of Revelation. Some of them are quite obvious, others are a bit more vague, but it's quite clear some of the symbolism here. So let's have a look at the overhead here. We're just going to run through and look at the first symbolism in chapter 12 is this woman with 12 stars around her head. Now, those of you with Catholic background, you all know that it's Mary. All right? So the Catholics think it's Mary. But a lot of people think that it's the combination of Israel and the church. I actually think it's really talking about Israel because the 12 stars talk about the 12 patriarchs. Remember, Joseph had a dream and his brothers were all bowing before him. And what he saw in the dream was all symbolism. He saw 11 stars bowing down to him, and he was the 12th star. Remember that story? They were all bowing down before him. The brothers really liked that. They thought it was great, you know. But here's the symbolism, this woman with 12 stars. So I think it's a symbolism of Israel. Secondly, we've got an enormous red dragon. Now, the enormous red dragon, of course, is Satan. He's got 7 heads, 10 horns with 7 crowns. Now, that's not how he literally looks like. It's symbolism for his great power. Now, Satan's got a lot of power, but it's not how he looks like, I don't think anyway. Jesus is described, for example, as the Lamb of God, who's got 7 horns and 7 eyes. I don't think Jesus will have 7 eyes and 7 horns, but it speaks of the symbolism of his power, the perfect power. Now, this enormous red dragon sweeps a third of the stars out of the sky, or out of heaven, which is a reference to the fall of the rebellion of Satan and the angels against God way back at the beginning of time. Thirdly, the woman is about to give birth to a male child. And the big, enormous red dragon, now you picture this, the woman's about to give birth to this male child, and this enormous big red dragon is standing there waiting to devour this male child. Now, who is this male child? It's Jesus, because he rules with an iron scepter. Right? How did Satan try to devour Jesus when he was born into this world? I think it was through Herod, who was insanely jealous of any rivals and set out to kill all the male children under age 2 in Bethlehem. I once suggested to Jane Potter, who writes all our Christmas plays, that she should write a Christmas play based on this symbolism. You know, I thought we could title it something like The Christmas Story, Looking Behind the Curtain. Jane unfortunately blacklisted this because she thought it was a little inappropriate for a Christmas play. But I thought it would be quite dramatic, you know, big dragon coming in, you know, grabbing the little baby out of the, you know, all that sort of stuff. Fourthly, here we see in this chapter that there's a war in heaven, and Satan and his angels are thrown out of heaven. And the interesting